Kindness is a choice, and I think that's the biggest difference between being nice, because nice is passive. Hopefully, some of us are just born that way. But when we choose kindness, we all have it within us, and it's a proactive, there's agency in it. The true skill growth, the true growth of becoming kinder is how do I deliver this authentic message in a way that can be heard, even, and sometimes there's that mutual dialogue, right? So that the growth happens maybe even both ways. A kinder world is where we have real honest discussions with each other and find ways so that the other person can hear it. Kill 'em with kindness was let's overwhelm them with distraction, with niceness, with placating, with hyping up someone else's ego. And that just doesn't resonate with me anymore, because I think it's not about killing people with kindness, but it's about choosing kindness.
A tale of two hygienists.
Nobody warned us in hygiene school that one day we will be running a podcast, interviewing some of the most brilliant minds in dentistry and somehow convince people to listen to us. And yet, you guys are here listening to us. Welcome back, listeners, to another Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. I am your co-host, Dave, and I'm here with my very kind co-host, Jess.
Thanks, Dave. And today we're going to be talking about kindness, specifically kindness in education and how we can teach the whole person. And we have brought on today a guest that is the kindness. In fact, Glenn Canares is known as the Oracle of Kindness. He is a clinical associate professor at the University of Maryland and residency program director of pediatric dentistry. And like many of you, his education came with a focus on the head while ignoring the heart. But today we're going to talk about how we can switch that. Now Glenn is on a mission to change it. So he believes that great education should include the whole of the person, because the way we approach education is the way our professionals of tomorrow will approach their patients. He shares his kindness curriculum via keynote talks, workshops, webinars, podcasts, social media, and one-on-one coaching. Welcome to the podcast, Glenn. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. I'm just super excited to chat with you both.
Well, it's so kind of you to come on and to teach us a little bit more about what this looks like in the education world. The month of August, we're focusing on educators, and I had an opportunity to hear you speak about your kindness curriculum, and I said, we really need Glenn to come and talk about how we can be more kind in education. And I want to start about talking about the difference between kind and nice, because sometimes I think we think we're being kind when we're actually being nice, or we think we're being nice, and that I want to talk a little bit more about that. So tell me what you think about the difference between those two things.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, Jess. One of the things I always share is that when I share difference between nice and kind, it's very much from lived experience. I consider myself a recovering nice guy, and it's something I have to keep waking up every morning to make sure that I don't go down that path of being way too nice and letting people walk all over me. Yeah, each and every day. So there is a difference between being nice and kind, and I think there's this pressure, particularly for us in education, that we um, want to do the nice thing. We want to, help our students along. But I think what's happened over time is that nice and kind end up being the synonymous interchange that you can just change the words. And when I talk about being nice is with the times when we choose being comfortable over honest, or we choose this, just let's have some agreement over having an authentic type of conversation. And for me, what shows up as this recovering nice guy is that it oftentimes means I'm not going to set a boundary here. I'm not going to set an expectation, because I just want to be nice about it. I want everyone to be agreeable. Where with kindness, kindness is a choice. And I think that's the biggest difference between being nice, because nice is passive. Hopefully, some of us are just born that way. But when we choose kindness, we all have it within us, and it's a proactive, there's agency in it. And there's two components of choosing kindness. The first is, am I doing something? Am I choosing something to support someone's well being? And then, secondarily, am I choosing something to promote growth? And that could be in someone else or in
Mm.
ourselves. So I think the biggest difference is passive is being nice, kindness is a choice. And those two areas are really, really important, supporting well being and fostering growth.
I love the differentiation of kindness being something that you're consciously acting to do, and the kindness is often our natural person response, the carnal response, the lizard brain response of I want to be comfortable, I want to be amicable, I don't want any waves, but to be kind would be to actually say something that would benefit the person that you're talking with. And how does this help the psychological environment of safety in learning environments when you add kindness?
Um, that's such a good question. And I think what I'm hearing is we're getting at kind of the disconnect in our educational environments is that when there isn't a sense of, you brought up the word psychological safety, right, Jess? It's this idea that I would hope in an ideal learning environment, right? When we feel that our learners can ask questions, can have ideas, can I'll call it take risks in terms of I don't need to just get the right answer. I actually need to learn this stuff. When we see those things, that's actually symptoms in a good way of a psychologically safe environment. Now, I suspect we've all been in different environments where we don't feel that safety. And it's like, you know what? This is the time. This is not the battle. This is not the hill I want to die on. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and not share what I need to do when we bring kindness in, and that can be expressed in so many different ways. That's what I love about it. It's like because at its simplicity, it is a choice, it is agency. And the way one of the ways it can get expressed is when we are choosing kindness, we are creating these clear and consistent expectations in our environments, right? And I know this is focused more on education. I think it applies to any environment we're in, but really, in these educational environments, when we choose kindness, there is an intention to create these clear and consistent expectations, which in itself, and the science shows that it actually helps foster more psychological safety. I kind of want to get at what you were exactly saying, Jess, is that sometimes the kind choice is having to share something that might be uncomfortable. I kind of want to put out here kindness is hard sometimes. Kindness can be uncomfortable, but oftentimes kindness is honest, it's truthful, and when we share that truth with the want of supporting someone's well-being, it it often is expressed in an expectation to someone else, that's clear and consistent and something that we can come back on. It's not because I was feeling this day I was feeling good one day, I was feeling poor the other day. It's that same clear, consistent expectation. And I think it's one of the simplest, easier said than done, but simplest ways to continue to foster psychological safety in any environment. We're focused on education, but I even in my own lived experience, you know where else it works? In a marriage, in working with our my children, in friendships, in other groups where when we choose kindness, sometimes it's hard to be clear and consistent on our own expectations. But man, it really um, it allows the other person not to have to second guess. Again, I share that because when I mean that is that maybe it's not the first thing you think about being kind, but it is a clear expression of that ability to say, I'm fostering my own growth or someone else's, as well as supporting the well-being in that statement.
Glenn, it's help me understand this at a deeper level because
Yeah,
I'm just
please.
I'm
I
thinking
love going
about
deep, by the way.
yeah, is kindness mostly for them or us, or is it for both? Because I feel like when I'm nice, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
nice for them, you know. But like, is kindness for both, or is it just mostly something that you do to kind of say, okay, this is something that like the vibe, the energy, the psychological aspects of it.
Dave, I love that question. And thank you for the permission to say, all right, let's dig deeper into this. That's such a good question. And part of it is lived experience and also what I'm recognizing is sorry, let me come back to that. My quick answer is I think kindness is the choice we do for ourselves, right? Because I think you bring up a very good point, Dave, that being nice, that's for everyone else. right? There's this external focus. I think kindness also has an external focus, and there's this beautiful balance of both the internal and the external. I suspect some of your listeners on this podcast are as soon as I said recovering nice guy, they immediately resonated with that. And I would say for that, kindness is for ourselves because um I don't know if this resonates with you, Dave, or you, Jess. Oftentimes because I've been so nice, I wouldn't say that I couldn't say the meanest thing or whatever to someone else, but my goodness, I have said the worst things to myself that no one else has said about like, to myself. That self-criticism, and that comes from other things. I recognize there's healing in that. I believe that choice to foster my own growth and support my own well-being is a kind choice for myself, and when we start there, we have space, we have bandwidth, and then we can share that energy, that vibe, as you were saying, that kindness with others. That being said, sometimes for some of us, it takes practicing on an external area, on an environment to see the external results of sharing kindness with someone else, which then can inform us, right? So I think there are two different, not two, but I suspect there are two types of people that in your audience here, right? The ones that say, okay, I need to start with kindness to myself first, because often I've found I'm most unkind to myself before anyone else. And there are others that need to practice and see the effects and express it in a way in an environment and see how that responds to them, right?
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I hope that
about
answers that question.
Totally, and I'm thinking about in an education environment, and I'm thinking about times where I have chosen to be nice because I can control the outcome of being nice. Like, I know if I'm being nice, I'm doing it for somebody else, and I know that I'm going to oh, this is interesting. I'm working through this as I say it.
Oh,
Because
beautiful.
because I'm like, when I'm being nice, I'm saying something that I know is going to satiate that person, or but then in that same breath, I'm saying, "But then I get to control how I'm perceived, that I'm gonna be perceived as nice." But kindness, sometimes when I make a decision to be kind, that's going to be for the person's growth or for my own growth, sometimes that's not perceived as nice. Do you experience that?
Oh, I love that you brought this up. So there was a literally, I think it was back in March, I was giving a talk to a group in my state, and that same concept was brought up. And I will say it like this person had this epiphany, said, oh my gosh, Glenn, and I thought I was being this mean, you know, too direct person, all these different types of things. But what I was recognized is I was actually trying to be kind. I have to find a different way of modifying my way of sharing it so it's heard. But
Mm.
I kept beating myself up saying, I'm this mean person, I'm too like all the stories, right? I'm too direct about this. I'm da 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 da. And when this concept under she just had this epiphany, it's like, actually I'm being quite kind because I'm trying to do those two things. And where I need to modify is not the message, but how I deliver it. Does that make
So
sense?
that could be the words that you use or the tone that you use or
Exactly.
the time that you use.
Right.
Interesting.
The
Okay.
timing on it, as opposed to let me just do something to, like, appease everyone, but you don't actually get your message out, right? And um, it's just hard. It's stifling, right? And it's just like now you're playing a game of what did I say to make sure this person was feeling okay? Let me monitor them emotionally, and versus here's my truth and the true skill growth, the true growth of becoming kinder is how do I deliver this authentic message in a way that can be heard in the way the time it's delivered, the tone it's delivered, even and sometimes that there's that mutual dialogue, right? So that the growth happens maybe even both ways. To me, that's I mean, a kinder world is not necessarily where everyone placates each other or whatever, but a kinder world is where we have real honest discussions with each other and find ways so that the other person can hear it. I mean, maybe I'm thinking too big, but like we can do that
Oh,
in
I like this big
education.
world. I like this world of accountability. I really like it.
Yeah, yeah. I just
We
yeah.
we believe in the verse, and today's we're joined by the Glenn verse, right? And I have to ask you, when you hear "kill him with kindness," where
Mm.
does your mind go to?
That is such a good question. Okay, so I'm just gonna react. I'm just gonna respond and react
Do
because
it.
that was such a good question. Okay, so before I used to be like, oh yeah, that's kill 'em with kindness meant be let's be super nice. Let's bring them up with all these compliments. Let's make them feel so good that there's no other emotion they could ever feel than joy or happiness, and they couldn't be angry about it. And now with the reframe, killing with kindness, it just doesn't work. For number one, we don't have to kill anyone, right? Um, uh, right, yeah, but it's not. So to me, that is kill 'em with kindness was let's overwhelm them with distraction, with niceness, with placating, with hyping up someone else's ego. And that just doesn't resonate with me anymore because I think it's not about killing people with kindness, but it's about choosing kindness. Like I wish it sounded catchier than that, but it's not an action to overwhelm someone, but to choose and have the space to be uncomfortable if we need to, have the space to listen, have this, it's not a competition. Does that make sense? Kill 'em with kindness to me sounds like a competition. Where kindness, when we really accept it as what uh, it is a really can I if I can expand on this, I believe kindness is a high level skill that we can practice too. It's definitely a leadership skill. It's to me, it is an essential educational teaching skill. But when it comes to kindness, there's a lot we need to do in order to practice and have that skill appropriate. So I think about it like this, like right now we have the World Cup going on. As we're recording this, we have the NBA finals. We have these high performing athletes that we know that they need to be well rested, well fed. They need to do all these things so they can perform at the highest level. When I think about kindness in a leadership or an educational system, to me, that is the high level skill. And just like a professional athlete, they need to be rested, they need to be regulated. In the same way, I believe that as leaders, as educators, the more regulation, the more grounded we are, the more bandwidth we have for ourselves and others, the more, I'll say it, the more healing we've done for ourselves, right? Where we
Mhm.
can respond rather than react. We tap into that higher performance, that high skill level where we choose kindness, right? Now we respond with kindness rather than react with niceness, right? And it's just this really powerful skill that how do I put this? Is like I believe kindness is one of the most challenging, high performing skills in leadership or education that we can do. Yeah, and we need to be on point. We need to be grounded. We need to be solid to be able to use it in a way that's effective.
How do we start? Like if I'm you said performance athlete, right? So you're like the pro level kindness person, right? But how did you start recognizing that with yourself? How did do you remember the time where you woke up and you were like, man, I really gotta, I'm nice, but I really gotta be kind to myself so that I can be kind to others. And what advice do you have for that person who's like, that's me, like that's 100% me. I'm excited for what Glenn is saying and to be a pro kindness athlete.
Yeah, I love this. We're gonna go with this, but this is the first time I've ever
I like the
kind
pro
of
I
brought
like
up.
this pro athlete thing. I wanna know
Yeah,
what your
pro
daily
athlete.
regimen is. I wanna know what you're eating. I wanna know how
Your
much you're
Yeah.
secret
drinking.
sauce, you're sponsored,
Um,
all that stuff.
So there's two ways I'm going to answer this, and I'm sharing this because I'm on the other side of this. Is that there is for me, I'm a very experiential person. Like sometimes I'm one of maybe that you relate to this, Dave or Jess. I suspect there are people in the audience. I'm a okay. Let me put my head down and do this till I get it done. Right? Like I can push through discomfort. I can do all these different things. And that also comes with an issue of where sometimes I need these hard life experience to like literally go, Glenn, wake up. Here's the lesson. Pay attention. And I'll share with you is that the genesis or the beginning of this really intentional focused journey on saying, Glenn, you need to stop being so nice. It's
Mhm.
about being kind. Is that I was standing in the middle of clinic and we had our residents, like I said, I'm an academic, I'm an educator. Our residents were doing their thing. There was nothing crazy going on. There was no emergency that walked in. There was no trauma, whatever. And I'm standing in the middle of clinic and I am feeling just these sweat beads come down my forehead, come down my head. I start to feel my my chest just start beat really, 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 really fast. And for the next 1 to 2 minutes, I don't know where I am. I I don't know what's happening, and I'm like, even part of me like, I had a good life. I guess this is how I go out. And then it just kinda calmed down. I there was a nurse on the floor, so I went over to that station. I kinda sat, checked my blood pressure, it's through the roof, my heart rate's going, I drink some water, and finally, after about 20, 25 minutes, I calm down, and then I make my way back to clinic, finish out the clinic session, come back to my office, and kinda just process what just happened, and I was like, "Uh, I think
Did I
I"
have a heart attack? Did I,
yeah, I
like
have a heart attack, and I understood later on reflection that I had a panic attack. And it was one of those things where I was like, I'm in my mid-40s now, and I was just like, "What what have I been holding in and just gutting through?" And the reason I share that is that that was my wake-up call. What I hope for your listeners is that if you have experienced that or something, your own version of a wake-up call, you have nothing but empathy for me, and that, I if the lesson you learn from your wake-up call in your life is some significant motivation or change or reflection. That's what happened for me. For others in your audience, where you're like, you know what, I know I'm a nice person. I want to do more of the kind thing, and I don't need a panic attack to wake me up to do that change. That's amazing, and actually the healthier way to do it. Um, but what I'll share is that that was my moment where I was like, okay, now it's time to understand what I'm doing. So the little habits and things that help me understand how to be nicer was actually finally just checking in on myself. So when you asked earlier, Dave, do we is it being kind is more about ourselves or others? And I said, maybe there's two different types of people in your audience. For those that resonate with this, it was like, oh, I need to be kinder myself, which is understanding why am I not supporting my own well-being, and is my growth actually about just putting my head down and doing something over and over again? Or is this about what I'm understanding my growth as an educator is how do I impact more students' lives? How do I connect more in a way that not only do they grow and learn, but learn at an exponentially faster rate? Like that's two of the lessons that I learned from myself. And the things that have helped me understand how to be kinder is we hear these different things, right? Like you need to set boundaries. You need to learn how to say no. All these different things which are out there, as cliche as it almost feels like it, all these things that I had to understand, what am I doing about being nice and what is actually for me? So, what I'll tell you is it's kind of a way to get there is that remember how I said when we're actually being at that pro level, we can practice the skill of kindness, but if we're not actually having the space for ourselves, the space for ourselves to be regulated, to have the bandwidth in ourselves to actually be kind to ourselves and then be kind to others, what I've learned is that I also talk about this in other parts besides the kind of stuff, this idea of bite-sized wellness, as busy professionals, um, I would love
Yeah.
to go on a 10-day silent retreat and say that solves everything. But for everyone listening here, no, most people do not have 10 days to go on a silent retreat and not abandon, put pause on all their responsibilities. So it's
Right.
this idea of bite-sized wellness where these consistent small habits to take a physiological sigh, which takes less than 30 seconds between patients, to move from sympathetic, exactly the in through the nose at the end, get that last sniff, and then empty your belly. You do two of those in a row, you shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic system, right? A more regulated state. So, doing those things in consistent habits throughout the day between patients, waking up and going for a walk immediately to reduce my cortisol levels, right? These are little, like, and I'm talking like a 5, 10 minute walk in the morning, first thing, before my coffee. Journaling was extremely powerful for me, being reflective there. So I don't know if this is the quick fix or not. I don't want to call it quick fix, Dave, but the simple thing is that what I learned is that being nice here's the lesson: being nice for so long, chronically nice, let's call it a chronic thing. Being chronically nice for so long put my mind and myself in a state of dysregulation that I found it very difficult to be kind to myself. And I was still probably being more nice than kind to others, which was kind of just what you were getting at, telling the truth about our true skill development. You know,
Yeah.
when I'm dysregulated, it's a lot easier just to be nice. Um, And it's
You're
those steps.
dysregulated, you're stressed out,
Yeah.
all those things make you want go, "Well, I there is an option to do this a better way, but we'll take this mediocre way because it's here and it's now and it's easy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I mean, we still like if we go back to the pro athlete kind of analogy, you still have to shoot your shots, right? Like you still have to practice shooting threes from the free throw line, all those different things. So acts of kindness where we see be kind, random acts of kindness, those are shooting the basketball to practice to make sure that we actually have the skill to do it when we're available. But the greatest and the best athletes have a great nutrition plan. They rest, they sleep, they have good coaching. They,
Ooh,
you
that's
know, they,
good, that's good.
yeah, they have all this different support. And it's the same thing with kindness. It's one of the hardest, one of the biggest pushbacks that I get, when anyone's like, "Oh, maybe we could use this talk." Well, this is a soft skill workshop. This is a da 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 da. This is an extra thing. My reframe on the kindness thing is kind of what we're talking about. Like shooting a basketball, getting the hoop. Yeah, that's a skill. I believe kindness is that skill. What are we doing? Kindness is not the soft skill to do the other stuff to perform. Kindness is actually the skill. So what are we doing else to make sure we get at that level? Um, and yeah, oh gosh, so many areas that I wanna go into this now.
I think so often we get caught up in professional development
Mhm,
that we
mhm.
forget personal development. And I'm thinking about I am trying to put this into our analogy, so you sporty people are gonna have to help me, but maybe we're getting so involved in, like, how many tickets we're selling at the games or, what does our jersey look like, or are we paying for the best equipment? Are we doing all these things, and are we really investing in the hard skills, but we're burnt out, we're sad. All of these things that are showing up in these systems that are having effects on our students being able to use those things that we're maybe focusing on because that's professional development.
Mhm.
I know more about staging and grading. I know more about instrumentation. And I think my invitation here from our podcast today, Glenn, is what steps would you recommend we take for personal development that's going to show up in improving our professional development?
Mhm. That's that's like a really good one. Um,
Mm, Yeah.
yeah,
Therapy?
okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Again, what I love about you too is just like these are really thoughtful questions, and also I'm just gonna respond from
Yeah,
We're
here
in
and
this
respect.
there.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is awesome. This is like truly you make it feel like we're just talking with friends. This is awesome.
You
Um,
are a friend.
Yay! Oh, thank you. Um, okay, so again, I think you kind of framed it beautifully, Jess, where the professional development is going to happen regardless, right? Whether we're in an educational system, whether we're in a practice, and there's continuing CE and professional development, there is an expectation that we perform a craft at a certain level. The personal development is going to the steps because I think it kind of relates to what I was talking about before. But as you said that, that just made me think that the professional development is the actual performance of the skills, while the personal development is what is my what is my stamina to do that over time,
Hmm.
right? If you think about it, like okay, the quality of a scaling and route planing or some sort of procedure or the ability to manage in an office, interpersonal skills with your patients, that sort of thing, right? That's our professional development. But I think what our personal development does is said, okay, how long is this performance being able to be sustained for? So I would think most new grads, could go, they always say it's a marathon, we're going to use cliche, say it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I think my gut feeling is that the average new grad coming out of school can sprint for 5 years and be like, all right,
Their stamina's high.
yeah, it's high, they're gonna continue to learn, it builds upon itself, and after about 5 years of practice, they're really in a solid place or a really good place, and then from there on, right, Dave, you've been practicing for over 20 years, right? That's yeah, I
Almost
think that's
almost 20
oh,
years.
almost 20
Yeah,
years.
in
That's
dentistry.
beautiful. That's a level of personal development and stamina, right? That comes into the profession to perform at a high level. So my thinking is that professional development, I'm sorry, personal development related to professional development is related to the amount of time that you can perform at a high level without getting burnt out, as you're saying, Jess, is one way, or being like, I need to change my career. I need to do something new and completely different. I need to
Mhm.
shift, and that's okay, right? We all have all different levels. So for personal development, I keep coming back to it, but I believe it's the amount of internal bandwidth we allow for ourselves. Like there is a culture where I think in our professions, we I again, this is I mentioned this before we started recording. I had a former life in corporate America as an auditor with, sitting behind spreadsheets and computers and all that stuff where, we are in professional fields that are patient focused. We happen to be educators that also are learner focused. Is
Mhm.
that I think what's really interesting is that we need to how do I put it? We need space to share with others. And I think that professional development comes to the amount of bandwidth that we have for ourselves. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There's this culture of overperformance for us, right? It is like, okay, get that grade, move to the next course. All right, good. You've got these CEs done. Let's up the level. Let's bring up the production. And I think that constant thing, like, that works for that sprint time, but if we're looking at a long-term personal development, it doesn't allow a lot of bandwidth for us to recover from that performance, right? Like, coming back to the pro athletes, there's no one at the World Cup that after they have I guarantee they have not been performing at the level or the NBA finals, they've been performing at the level they need to, for the last 12 months. I think what they've been able to do is ramp it up throughout the season. And now that it's go time, they're performing at the highest level possible. I feel like with the same thing with us is that I don't know if there's ever a finals, right? We're like, all right, we're
Right.
always in the
Right.
finals. And we're always performing at this high level where when we talk about professional development, doing the kind things for ourselves, is really about creating that space and bandwidth for us to be able to recover. And just like the high performing athletes, we're the kind performing athletes. The highest quality ones are able to rest and recover in a faster way than less performing athletes. I don't know how you want to describe it. So I feel like the steps we do for personal development would be that. How quickly can recover from performing? Do we allow that same bandwidth? For me, it has been a lot of, like I said, the intentional look at reducing cortisol levels within myself, the
Mhm.
stress levels. Whether people do that through like community, friends, breathing, meditation, whatever it might be, or learning more, or
Right.
doing really good podcasts. Like these are different creative
You have
outlets.
been lowering my cortisol, Glenn. Thank you
Yeah,
very
that's what I'm
much.
saying. Like this is a
I
creative social podcast. It's awesome.
Yes, yes, and my takeaways are because we're in an environment in education that it doesn't feel like there's an ending. Like, we just graduated a class, and people are like, "Oh, you have the summer off." And inside, I'm like, "Ha ha." I'm like, "Yeah, I can't tell you that, no, I don't have the summer off, but no, I don't have the summer off, and there's not that end goal." And to remind myself to take those micro actions, so my response or my bounce back time is faster and faster. So, listeners, I hope that you have also taken away something that you can do in the next week and improve your bounce back time and become an elite kindness athlete with Glenn and Dave and I. Welcome to the kind team. Thank you so much, Glenn, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Glenn, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
That's a wrap on today's episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast. If this conversation made you feel seen, inspired, or even just a little fired up, share it with a fellow hygienist or fellow dental professional. Share it with your neighbors, your friends, share it with everyone. That is how this community grows.
Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and connect with us on social media so that we can keep on going with this conversation. Remember, your career, your voice, and your story matter here. We're David.
And Jessica,
And until next time.
keep learning, keep laughing, and keep showing up for yourself and for each other.
This has been a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B.